You can be happy.
Though married.
Tonight's program is about marriage, which means it's about love, expectations,
misunderstandings, compromise, weathering storms,
and occasionally wondering who this person is and why they're still in your kitchen.
We tend to talk about marriage in extremes as a fairy tale or a cautionary tale. What you will hear tonight lives somewhere in between.
If you're married, you may recognize moments you've lived.
If you're not, you may recognize moments you've witnessed.
And if you loved it all, long, briefly, or imperfectly, you'll recognize the stakes.
This evening isn't asking whether marriage is easy or hard. It's asking something far more interesting.
How do people,
ordinary, imperfect people,
learn to be happy,
though married? Let's begin.
Few questions in life arrive with as much confidence and leave us with as much uncertainty as this one. To be or not to be married.
It's a question asked in whispers, in late-night conversations, and sometimes unhelpfully at family gatherings.
It's been debated by philosophers, poets, clergy, friends, strangers, and people who absolutely should not be giving advice.
Some say marriage is the answer. Some say it's the problem. Most agree it's complicated.
If you've ever stood at a crossroads, if you've ever overthought a choice that matters,
or if you've ever wondered whether certainty is overrated, this may sound familiar. This is to be or not to be married.
To be or not to be married.
Which, by the way, is not a question you ask on the first date.
Or a second.
Or before dessert.
Marriage, they say, is wonderful.
Marriage, they say, is terrible.
Marriage, they say, will fix you.
Marriage, they say, will ruin you.
Sometimes all before breakfast.
Some people swear marriage is bliss.
Others look like they're doing time.
There are single people who are perfectly content and radiant.
And married people who look like they're silently negotiating hostage terms in the grocery aisle.
It's been said, whichever you choose, marry or don't, you'll regret it. Marriage, apparently, is a place where those inside want out, and those outside are knocking politely saying, "Excuse me, is this where happiness lives?"
And someone inside is whispering, "Don't answer."
Some people think marriage softens you.
Some think it traps you.
Some think it completes you.
Some think it drains your bank account and eats all your leftovers. But not necessarily in that order.
But here's the thing. All the arguments against marriage collapse the moment someone looks at you a certain way. You know the look, the one that makes you forget your entire personality.
The most devoted anti-marriage philosophers have been undone by one smile, one laugh, one unexpected spark.
You can write essays against love. Cupid does not read them. He skims and then shoots you anyway.
So, some choose marriage.
Some choose not to.
Both choices can be brave and wise, and both can be disasters.
An unhappy marriage is worse than solitude, and a loveless partnership is heavier than loneliness and louder.
And yet, a good marriage, that's someone who carries the load with you, someone who knows your bad days.
Someone who notices when you're quiet for the wrong reason and still stays.
Single life has freedom,
Married life has company.
Neither is painless.
Neither is perfect.
Both require snacks.
So maybe the real question isn't to marry or not to marry. Maybe it's this: can I choose honestly, without fear, without pressure, without pretending?
Because whether you marry or don't, someone will disapprove. Someone will judge. Someone will say you should have done the opposite. Usually a relative.
In the end, marriage isn't a miracle cure.
It's a tool, like a rope. Used wisely, it can pull you forward.
Used foolishly? Well, you've seen the cartoons.
So, to be or not to be married?
That's not a riddle to solve, it's a step to take. And once you take it, you stop standing still.
And whatever road you choose,
Walk it like you mean it.
Now, before dating apps and algorithms, or before you could swipe left because of shoes, people still had strong opinions about who they should marry, usually unsolicited.
But before marriage, there is the choice. The choice about what we think we're looking for and what actually lasts.
Choosing a spouse has never been just preference, it's consequence.
This is the choice of a spouse.
They tell you love is blind, that you just fall into marriage like a pothole you didn't see coming. But I think marriage doesn't trip you. You step into it, sometimes confidently, sometimes with your eyes closed and your fingers crossed.
Everyone's got advice. Just marry someone, anyone decent. As long as they breathe and don't choose. Anyone. Anyone. That's like saying, pick a parachute. Any parachute.
Before you take a step that lasts longer than most warranties, choose carefully. The choice may be brief, but the consequences are, well, enthusiastic.
Now, you're not shopping for perfection, obviously. If you are, I suggest prayer or fiction.
But people do make checklists. Right age, right height, good teeth, not too chatty, but not silent. Likes your friends, laughs at your jokes, even the ones from 1987. Economical, but generous. Stylish, but modest. Smart, but never intimidating. Basically, a unicorn that can cook. That's not a partner. That's a fantasy with a grocery list.
And while money's nice, very nice, marrying for money is like buying a house for the chandelier. Looks great until the roof leaks.
Plenty of rich people aren't happy. They're just well upholstered. Better to marry someone you know who knows how to stretch a dollar and shrink a problem, not the other way around.
Beauty? Lovely. But beauty alone fades faster than enthusiasm for a gym membership. A beautiful face without a beautiful nature gets very quiet at breakfast.
What lasts is kindness, a sense, a laugh. Someone who still looks good to you after you've both had the flu.
And please, don't marry a fool. Love may overlook a lot, but it shouldn't overlook common sense. Sooner or later, the household lands in capable hands. Or it doesn't.
Health matters. Not perfection, but But someone who chews their food walks with a purpose and can climb a flight of stairs without saying, "Woo, was that an experience?"
Age? Too young and you're raising a spouse. Too old and you're negotiating bedtime schedules.
What you want is a companion, a partner, someone who can talk and listen. Someone who can run a household without running you into the ground.
Education is wonderful. So is knowing where the light switches are. A mind that can discuss philosophy and still figure out what's for dinner.
But more than looks or money or charm, what matters most is character. Are they kind? Are they steady? Do they show patience when no one's watching? Can you respect them, not just admire them?
If you choose with care, with eyes open, with humor, with humility, you might not find perfection, but you might find something better. A partner, a critic who loves you.
A voice that steadies you. A person who makes the ordinary feel possible and the difficult survivable.
That's the real prize. And if you're lucky enough to find it, hold on.
Pay attention and don't ever pretend you just picked anyone.
Because you didn't.
Marriage does not have to diminish love. Often it deepens it, shifting intensity into something steadier and more intimate.
Love doesn't disappear when passion changes. It adapts, learning routine, humor, and the quiet loyalty of staying.
This is a story of romance transformed, love that survives ordinary days.
Not perfection, endurance.
Not the love before the vows.
The love that comes after.
This is after the altar.
People say marriage is the moment love crashes back to earth. Like, congratulations, here's your reality. Enjoy the laundry. Enjoy discovering that recycling is now a personality trait. And somehow, you have the opinion about which bin the cardboard goes in. Strong opinions.
But I don't think love ends at the altar. A man once wrote from a beautiful place where there was ocean air, sunshine, rest. And he writes, "This place is perfect and somehow completely wrong without you." Not dramatic, not flowery, just honest. It's like realizing your favorite song doesn't sound right unless the other person is in the room.
Now, I'll admit that while heart-pounding, can't eat, can't sleep phase doesn't last forever. If it did, we'd all be dead at 30.
But what replaces it is quieter. You stop being fireworks and start being teammates.
Two people who know where the good things are and which argument is absolutely not worth reopening before coffee or maybe ever.
But young couples look at older married people and think, well, they don't seem very romantic. They talk about cholesterol. They go to bed early. They use the same jokes for 30 years. Yeah, because they still work.
I've seen love after marriage. I've seen people do impossible things for each other. Staying, not because it was exciting, but because it mattered. I've seen love letters written after the wedding, the
seen love show up awkwardly. A man who never remembers birthdays walking into a jewelry store like it's enemy territory. Suspicious, tense, deeply confused, and coming out with a gift anyways because someone he loves is hurting. Not smooth, not confident, just present.
I've seen love panic, missed messages, missed letters, 2 hours of complete emotional collapse because someone thought they'd been forgotten. And then the relief, the ridiculous, overwhelming relief, like oxygen returning to the room, or finding your glasses on your head. That's not childish. That's attachment. That's care.
Then there's the long view. A couple walking downhill together, hand in hand, saying, what do we care about age? The soul doesn't get old. Looking at whatever comes next and saying, we'll cross that bridge together too.
Marriage isn't the end of love. It's where love stops being hypothetical.
It's where love learns patience, forgiveness, how to sit quietly in the same room and still feel full.
And if that's coming back to earth,
That earth is a pretty sacred place to land.
What happens when the person you found turns out to be human?
This isn't about perfect marriages or tragic ones. It's about the far more common situation in between, when expectations meet reality and reality doesn't blink.
This is a look at marriage after the vows, after the honeymoon glow. And after you've learned exactly how another person loads the dishwasher and decided it is objectively incorrect.
It understands something important, that sometimes the real work of love isn't fixing what went wrong. It's learning how to live well with what is.
This is making the best of a bad matrimonial bargain.
Let's start with the truth nobody puts on the wedding invitation. Sometimes you choose carefully, think deeply, ask friends, pray, and still end up thinking, well, that didn't go as advertised.
We imagine we'll know before marriage, but dating is basically two people auditioning for roles they don't intend to play long term. Everyone's on their best behavior. Everyone agrees about everything. Then the wedding happens, and someone else shows up. Same face, different personality. Like marrying one person and waking up next to their cousin, who never replaces the toilet paper.
Because human beings are very hard to preview. You can test drive a car, you can return a toaster, but a spouse, no refunds, no exchanges, and the warranty expires immediately, especially after age 65.
That realization usually arrives quietly, sometimes in year 3 or year 30. And to be fair, sometimes it's not a bad marriage, it's just the end of the honeymoon brain fog. We thought marriage would feel like a vacation. Turns out, it's more like a timeshare with maintenance fees.
Some people respond to this by complaining to friends, relatives, or anyone trapped in the grocery line. This fixes nothing, though it does provide entertainment.
So what do you do if you've made a bad matrimonial bargain? You do something unfashionable. You accept reality quietly without posting about it. You stop asking, what did I deserve? Because that question goes nowhere good. And you start asking, what can I do now?
That question ages better. And here's something useful. If one person refuses to fight, the fight gets very boring. Bad tempers burn out when they don't get oxygen, like grandkids without Wi-Fi.
You also learn something uncomfortable. Your spouse is flawed, deeply, but so are you, in very creative ways. Marriage doesn't fail because people have faults. It fails because people keep score. They focus on the crooked leg and ignore the strong one.
The trick, if there is one, is lowering expectations without lowering character, dropping the fantasy, keeping the decency, and possibly separate blankets. You discover something surprising. You can survive disappointment, even deep disappointment. And there's a strange peace in that. It doesn't sparkle, but it lasts.
Happiness isn't getting exactly what you wanted. It's making something livable out of what you've got. Like orthopedic shoes. Some marriages aren't fairy tales. They're instruction manuals, long ones, with very small print. But if you stop asking life for perfection and start asking for strength, you may find you can be reasonably content, or dare I say, happy.
Though married. And honestly,
That's not nothing.
Marriage has a curious talent for being discussed in polite phrases. When things go well, we call it happiness. When they don't, we say they had a few words.
This piece about how most marital trouble doesn't begin with catastrophe, but with vocal sounds referring to pitch, quality, and strength. A word said a little too sharply, or not said at all.
Two voices who know that love doesn't fail because of great storms, but because of small, unattended weather.
This is a reflection on speech and silence, on winning arguments and losing peace, and on the quiet art of choosing which words matter most. This is, they had a few words.
It wasn't the issue. It was the tone.
When the sunshine of domestic bliss gets clouded, friends say gently, they had a few words. Which is marital code for someone won,
Someone lost.
and both slept terribly.
They had a few words has launched more domestic disasters than bad plumbing and group texts combined.
A young man once went to Socrates to learn how to speak well, and talked so much that Socrates charged him double. Why double, said the young man. Because, said Socrates, I must teach you two sciences, how to speak and how to shut up.
Just because you can say something doesn't mean you should.
We rarely regret holding our tongue, but we often regret letting it sprint ahead without supervision.
Some people are kind in their actions, but absolutely feral in their speech.
They forget
bet not everyone enjoys being corrected before breakfast.
Or during dinner.
Or forever.
There was once a joke that a deaf man marrying a blind woman would be ideal. She could say anything she liked. He could imagine it was an apology, and neither would need couples counseling.
Perhaps the lesson is, you don't need to hear everything. You don't need to see everything. The last word is a dangerous device, like grabbing a lit firework and saying, watch this.
Winning an argument often means losing everything else. You stand there, triumphant, alone, thinking, I won. And the house is very quiet.
Some people nag, not out of cruelty, but out of habit. They don't know what to do when they're not correcting someone.
A child once asked at a wedding, why do they throw things at the bride? For luck, said the bridesmaid. And why doesn't she throw them back? She does, said the bridesmaid, at home.
And there's an art to saying difficult things. Tone matters. Timing matters. And dinner time is not the time.
So, say something kind.
Or say nothing. Kindly.
If even a look can brighten a stranger's day,
Imagine what your words can do at home.
words can sting.
Or heal.
They linger.
They lift.
Words are mighty.
Words are living.
They echo longer than we expect.
So before the next few words, choose both well.
Pulling together. If that title already makes you think of a group project, you're not wrong.
This is about long-term partnership, where two adults share a home, a schedule, and one last functioning phone chart.
This is about the everyday miracle of getting along and choosing kindness even when you're absolutely certain you are correct.
Here is Pulling Together.
You ever notice how marriage is basically two people tied together, given one steering wheel, and then politely asked not to argue about directions? A man once said to his wife, "Look at the dog and the cat asleep on the rug. I wish men and women lived half as agreeably." And she said, "Yeah, great idea. Now tie them together and see how long that nap lasts."
Because that's the problem, isn't it? Are you pulling together, or are you both pulling your own way?
Because when people don't pull together, marriage turns into a tug of war with throw pillows.
But when they do pull together, oh, it's a beautiful thing. Leaning on each other when life hurts, a shared memory bank of things no one else on earth understands. Like, remember the time we argued for 3 days about whether the dishwasher was loaded wrong?
Ah, sacred memories. Did you know that in medieval England there was a prize called the Dunmouth Flitch? A whole side of bacon was awarded to any married couple who could swear they'd gone one full year without a household fight or wishing they'd stayed single.
In 500 years, 8 couples qualified. 8. Which means either people lie more now, or bacon used to be way better. But those rare couples who did qualify, they were described as birds of paradise.
They share joy, so it doubles. They split trouble, so it halves. That's marriage math. The wagon of care rolls easier when both people lean into the harness.
But here's the thing nobody likes to hear. There is no such thing as the one. There are apparently about 50,000 of them.
A practical man once said, I can be happy with 50,000 different people, as long as we don't talk about the things we disagree on.
You don't need matching tastes. You need matching values, truth, kindness, decency, and flexibility on the rest, and separate opinions about throw rugs.
The greatest marital hero is the person who doesn't correct you when you're doing something slightly wrong in a way that absolutely does not matter. That person deserves a medal.
Or bacon. And please, stop fighting over who's in charge. A minister once walked into a house full of shouting and said, I'd like to know who is the head of this household. And the husband replied, if you sit down a minute, sir, we're still trying to figure that out. But how much better would it be to compete over who loves more instead of who wins?
Another secret to pulling together? Mind your own business. If you trust your partner, do not audit the grocery bill like a federal investigation.
Marriage also gets messy when perfection moves in. The person who needs everything just so is exhausting to live with. You need a little untidiness, a little flexibility, a little, it's fine.
Marriage is not two perfect people. It's two imperfect people deciding daily to pull in the same direction because unity is strength.
So, pull together, loosen your grip, choose kindness, and if you manage one full year without wishing yourself unmarried,
somewhere, somehow, there's probably bacon waiting for you.
This piece is called Sunshine, the kind of sunshine that lives indoors, in kitchens, living rooms, and those moments when everyone is home and no one is quite on their best behavior.
It's about how challenging it can be to stay kind at home, and how the smallest moments often matter the most.
There's no plot to follow, no characters to keep track of, just observations, memories, gentle truths, and maybe a few well-earned laughs.
So settle in, open the window just a little, and listen for the sunshine.
Sunshine.
Sunshine. The truth is, it's very easy to be charming in public. We smile at strangers, we hold doors, but at home, gloves.
Same person who handles deadlines, traffic, doctors, and disasters without blinking, and lose all inner peace over the wrong mug or toast that's too dark.
And that's where sunshine is either made or aggressively blocked. Because it isn't the big things that wear a household down, it's the little things that tone says, I'm fine, while meaning I'm absolutely not fine.
Because the people we love most are the ones we treat least like strangers. With strangers, we're careful. With family, we say, well, this is just how I am.
How I am can cast a long shadow. Small faults faults don't look small when they show up every single day. Locusts are tiny too, but enough of them together and suddenly it's a nighttime at noon.
So here's the uncomfortable truth. Sunshine at home comes from being intentionally kind, from praise, actual praise, out loud. Not just thinking it really hard and hoping it lands. Say it clearly. Say it again. People grow toward warmth.
There's a reason horse trainers say, make much of your horse. They pat, they encourage, some principle, different species, fewer horse.
The tone of a Mahone matters. That helpless, unguarded laughter matters. And we forget to have it once life gets busy and increasingly orthopedic.
And when the trouble comes, and it will, we don't have to erase it.
Perspective helps. The darkest hour comes before dawn, although at our age we're usually awake for it.
There was a woman who hadn't left her bed in years, crippled in pain, thankful not for everything, but for one thumb that let her turn the pages in her book. That kind of gratitude glows.
And if we can find even a little good inside what hurts, we can turn loss into wisdom, winter into spring, the house warm.
Laughing helps, movement helps, sunshine needs circulation.
And here's the thing that no one tells you. Cheerfulness isn't a personality trait, it's a contribution.
So if you want sunshine at home, don't wait for the weather to change.
Open the window. Let light in your own soul first. Because whatever lives in there, that's what spills out.
And if we praise reasonableness, gentleness, a little grace, we might just turn our houses into small gardens,
Not perfect.
but warm and full of
Sunshine.
Most love stories are told from the beginning, the meaning, the spark, the hope. This one begins somewhere else, the end.
It begins with the moment we realize that love is not guaranteed time, that togetherness is not permanent, and that separation is not a theory.
This piece gathers small human moments from history and from ordinary lives, not to be tragic, but to be honest.
It asks a simple, uncomfortable question. What would we say differently if we truly believed time was listening?
This is Before It's Too Late.
I once read that when Charlotte Bronte was dying, newly married, barely 9 months in, she woke from a fever, saw her husband's face, heard him praying, and whispered, "I'm not going to die, am I? He won't separate us. We've been so happy." 9 months. That's barely enough time to argue about toothpaste caps.
We spend our lives pretending separation is theoretical, something that happens to other people in books and news stories. Not in kitchens we recognize or beds we share. Definitely not our bed. Not that one with special pillows and a very specific side.
Anyone who has ever loved deeply understands the impulse to wish it could all end at once. Extreme? Yes. Especially on holidays when someone doesn't show up.
Because the heart It's the leaving.
Across centuries, people keep saying the same thing in different ways. A Roman soldier buries his young wife after 6 months and writes, "No one else so loved each other so much." 6 months? That's barely a honeymoon and a lifetime of if only.
Samuel Johnson wrote his wife's name, Teddy, after every serious resolution he ever made. Not a paragraph, not a footnote, just her name. Because sometimes grief doesn't shout, it sighs.
A miner, trapped underground, scratched a goodbye to his wife on a water bottle with a nail. No revision, just truth. And he wrote, "My last thoughts are of you."
Some people don't survive the separation. They try. They try grocery shopping alone. That's usually where it hits. Others survive, but altered. Still standing, just leaning.
At the end, nobody says, "I wish I won more arguments." We become generous only after it's useless. We become eloquent only when there is no one left to hear us. Funny how compliments get braver at funerals. We praise at funerals what we neglected at breakfast. Words are cheap. Silence costs more.
Marriage doesn't last forever. That's not pessimism, that's math. And math, unfortunately, always wins.
So, say the kind thing now. Forgive sooner than feels fair. Be careful with words. They echo longer than you think, especially the ones you almost said.
Because one day, there will be a silence where a voice used to be. And silence is very persuasive. Don't wait for that day to finally understand what you had. Understanding is lovely. Timing is everything.
Say it now. Show it now.
Love, before it becomes a memory that means nothing.
Marriage isn't a finish line.
It's a long conversation
It starts with confidence.
and quickly meets reality.
It isn't always about big drama,
It's about the small things.
which turns out to be everything.
This is how to be happy, though married.
You know, there's the moment you realize you're slightly uncomfortable when the other person isn't around. That's when you think, if I miss you this much apart, then we're gonna be so happy together.
We were very confident.
Which is not a binding guarantee.
No fine print, though. Marriage doesn't arrive fully assembled. It doesn't come with instructions you can ignore. It doesn't magically deliver happiness.
Most of us believe love will do the heavy lifting, that happiness will simply happen.
We drifted into furniture,
And then we learn the truth.
usually during an argument about nothing. Happiness has to be worked for. Regular hours, no holidays.
No grand gestures, but patience, restraint, and learning that the person you love has habits.
Enduring ones.
Marriage has weather. Good days, cloudy days, days you wonder who left this person in your house.
And why they're still there. Love without compromise cools quickly, and the happiest marriages don't keep score. They protect the home.
That's when it feels like home.
Marriage can be conquest or sympathy.
We choose sympathy daily. And here's the quiet truth. Happiness in marriage doesn't come from receiving. It comes from giving.
From choosing kindness, from forgiving quickly, from speaking love out loud often.
So, if you ask us, after all these years, how to be happy though married?
Pay attention.
Be kind in small ways.
Let things go.
And remember, happiness isn't what marriage gives you.
It's what you build together.
One ordinary day at a time.
Worth it.
Worth it.
Tonight we started at the doorway, to be or not to be married. When love feels certain and commitment feels like a cheerful gamble.
Then we stepped inside, past the fantasy that happiness arrives assembled, and into the truth. Marriage is built, sometimes patiently, sometimes with duct tape.
Marriages don't collapse in storms. They wear down and drizzle from tone, timing, and a fine that isn't fine.
So we were given the real magic, bear and forbear. Let the small things go.
You didn't marry perfection. You married a human being.
Which means the point was never to win.
It was to love while you still can,
You can be happy.
though married.